My name is Gastón Solnicki. My film is called Souffleur, and I'm very happy to be here at the BFI.
So, what is the Souffleur about in your own words?
It's the third part of a trilogy that I was set in Vienna. I live in Buenos Aires. It has to do with the manager of the hotel, played by Willem Dafoe, who's trying to preserve the hotel from being demolished. And it's a film that is made, like my previous work, without a script, without financial or narrative preconceived structures. So it's quite wild in its the way it's made, and that's why it's also perhaps unconventional also in its structure and in its length.
Yeah. What sort of, I guess, what's the whole trilogy about, and what inspired you specifically with this idea and this film?
Well, it's 3 films I made in Vienna. They are all ranging from essay, fiction, and documentary, often at the same time, which I find to be quite a force in cinema from the beginning, that often one sort of evades by drawing certain lines that I find difficult to work with, genres, for instance. There's not particular. It's difficult to say in terms of a story, but it began with the passing of a friend from Vienna. I was invited to participate in a tribute, and I ended up making this first film, Introduzione all'oscuro, that it's, kind of a filmic offering to this friend. It's not really a film about him, but about things we shared.
Yeah.
And about Vienna also. Vienna plays a very important character in the trilogy. The second film, A Little Package, was made with actors during the pandemics, which had challenges of its own.
Yeah.
And then finally this one, it's, with Willem Dafoe, which of course makes a very different, ground for the film.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned Vienna as a character, locations are characters as part of the film. Just talk to me about the setting of Vienna, and you mentioned how it was untraditional, I guess, the way this film is told. Share some more light about that, and how do you balance that with making something, I guess, digestible or watchable while pursuing ideas that may be a bit, atypical?
It's an interesting question. I'm not trying to think in terms of digestible or watchable. You sound like my mother. I'm trying to actually make something more sensual and attractive, not just something one can digest, but something one wants to, to nurture from. So I think it's true these films can be a little challenging if you are used to a more robotic relation to what goes through you. In that sense, the film is the opposite of a film made by, an algorithm where it's feeding pleasures that they know you like.
Yeah.
This is different. So I think the range of reaction is much larger. People can be really undigestible, and this can be very undigestible to some people, whereas others can be very rewarded and feel grateful that the film offers a certain angles and certain possibilities for Willem himself as an actor to also to experience him in a very different context with non-actors in Vienna, in this more spontaneous approach.
Yeah, no, I love that very much so, the feeling of the film, the feeling of the art. Like you mentioned, a very sensual experience. What was it like directing Willem Dafoe? How did he become part of the project?
Well, we became friends some years ago, and it was really like a fight. We dragged each other into the mud, which I think it's, we both had to leave our registers, the areas where we sort of exist, which I think made it very difficult and challenging, but also very, new for both of us.
Yeah.
And I believe in this, in taking elements outside of their zone. I think it's not the idea of professionalism, but the idea that you are, exploring yourself in a different ground, and this brings something fresh out, something unexpected, something I believe in. That has to do with spontaneity.
Yeah, just been told to wrap up. So
No. These interruptions are destroying me.
No,
they should discover a new technique.
It's all right. Just a final question I want to ask you is, what lessons did you learn from this film and the trilogy overall in terms of your filmmaking, and what advice would you give to an emerging independent filmmaker?
I think emerging filmmakers should be aware that there's paradoxically perhaps a lot of room for them out there. There's of course the element of fear that takes over. So the idea of film schools and the idea that you have to prove yourself, your capacity to the world by certain, scripts and rewards or recognitions. I think this is a big lie, and it's on the contrary. It's those who somehow are not governed by this fear and somehow get out of this and make their own film, the first film in a very honest and non-pretentious way, a documentary, or in terms of production, more like a documentary approach. And these people, they managed, and those are those who make films. They if the first film is supposed to be like this kind of bigger than life, a period piece, perhaps you don't want to make it, So I think the advice is to go out there with your colleagues, your friends, and believe in your materials, make your films, and both funding and festival-wise, the system also is. There's a large demand for these first films. They don't need to be perfect, and I think for me it was very important when I somehow, after film school, managed to go out and make, to jump into a first film, and one thing then led to the other. But I think this is very important, that it's not about being original. It's about, the desire to make it, and as opposed to the fear what is going to happen. I think this is important, to make that step. And a lot of these people are often told or assume wrongly that that is not like that they have to prove that they can do this or that, so that somebody authorizes. And money should not be used as an excuse not to make it, because you can make it with very low resources than ever before in the history.
Well, thank you so much for that, and great advice. Breaking the structure, not really following the structure, your own voice and finding that. Thank you so much for your time, Gastón.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.